Hello, Joomla World Conference. I can tell by the conversations in this room and out in the hallways and with all of our sponsors that many of you have been following through on the request that Robert made on the first day of our 3 days together. He challenged each of you to find 3 new things that you have learned and put them to practice in the next 30 days before you forget about them. And he challenged you to find 3 new colleagues, cohorts, mentors, people you can share with, people that you can keep in touch with, and get in touch with those people in the next 30 days so that you can build your Joomla world. In this final panel, we are going to have an opportunity to, in essence, put the questions to the people who have survived the transition of our Joomla leadership into a brand new organization, gone through the version 0 growing pains of what it took to take a very theoretical plan that came out of 2 different governance committees and the magic team of 7, as we call it, that really anticipated so many different issues about how to work in a meritocracy plus governance and democratic structure to come up with a whole new way of doing business in an all-volunteer project. We are the largest all-volunteer project on the planet doing CMS work. It is a phenomenal accomplishment. And in part, these people are to thank. So to lead off, we're going to do a little bit of a self-introduction to have each person talk about their department, what they do for the project. And I'm going to lead off just because he can set the tone with El Jefe, who you've already heard from before, our fearless leader. Robert, go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Duke. Robert Jacoby, I'm the president of Open Source Matters, which is the holding company for Joomla, which we just simply call Joomla. And now I've lost the track of the question already because Duke made it so exciting.
It's all those teams that report to you.
But so that's a good point you bring up, Duke. No team reports to the president. We are a flat organization. We are all equal on this board, and that's very important. My specific role is very legal, signing contracts and participating in the board, but the department coordinators no department coordinator is greater than another. We all have a very equal role. So talking to any one of us is talking to the top as it gets. So with that, I'll just keep it quick and simple.
Great, we'll take it to Alexander, who has that enviable position of having almost no job description, so that he can kind of make it up as he goes along.
That's true. My name is Alexander. I'm the VP of the Joomla project. So the main goal of being a VP is to support the president, so that's what I do. And apart from that, I try to be the glue for the project. So I try to be the person that fills in between where it's needed. That is why currently I'm serving as interim department coordinator for the operations, which is the most exciting department in the Joomla community for me so far.
Is there something ahead for operations for solving that challenge that you're facing?
Oh, that's a very good question, Duke. Thank you. To be honest, I'm new to the operations because I've just started a couple days ago, so I started to understand how important actually are all the things that we have in the operations, because that's extension directory, that's template directory, that's resources directory where every website creator, every hosting company can get listed if they're a part of a community. That's showcase directory where we have beautiful Joomla websites. And there's a lot of other things, forums, Joomla community magazine. That's really, that's way more exciting than I thought when I agreed to take this role.
Very good. Let's move on to our secretary. Luca, tell us what challenges you're facing with our new governance and bylaws and new ways of keeping records.
Yeah, mainly I deal with all the paperwork of the organization, the memberships, the elections, and all that stuff that is legally required by the organization and the bylaws of Open Source Matters. And also I'm involved in the GDPR and the compliance of the organization from a legal perspective.
Great. Mike Demo, do you do anything more than write checks?
No, I send Veeams. Yeah, I'm Mike Demo. I am the treasurer of Open Source Matters, the legal entity of the Joomla project, and my role is legal and fiduciary. I am one of the few people who can go to jail for the project, so I have that nice distinction. But pretty much just make sure the vision of the board is carried out from a fiscal sense. The treasurer does not set policy or direction of the project. It just makes sure that the board's wishes are kept with appropriate spending based on the different department coordinators' goals.
Great. Eve, let's go to your department. What challenges are you facing and how much fun are you having?
A lot of fun, as always. I'm the department coordinator for programs. There are multiple teams under it, for example, exams, which is really pushing Joomla forward to the professional level. Then we have, for example, JET and some other stuff. And most of the people know me here because I'm in almost any team. So that's easy.
Very good. Sandra?
Yes.
See, there's one person on every team who knows how to say the right word. What is it?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's talk about your department.
So my department is marketing and communication. It also includes a community translation team. And of course, our job is to promote the platform as well as the whole project. And we are trying to build a new strategy in order to communicate better inside the community, but most of all outside the community.
Very good. Soren, would you mind telling us a little bit about the most exciting department in the entire project, the most vibrant, the most energetic?
The most vibrant and colorful department is, of course, the one I am the department coordinator of. It has the exciting title of Legal and Finance. And in that we take care of legal and finance issues, surprisingly enough. We are in charge of bringing in the money to the project, making sure it doesn't leave the project too easily. And also our legal issues, which includes protecting our trademark, and yeah, any other legal issues that we have. But mostly it's about the money.
Excellent. Finally, we're going to go to the most insignificant department of all, the one that we tolerate, we just kind of get along. The ones that we try to keep awake every now and then because they're always nodding off after working too many hours. Michael, what is life like in production?
Didn't I just answer this an hour ago?
Different audience.
No, mostly the same. So, production department coordinator basically means I oversee all bazillion and 7 teams that are in charge of putting Joomla together as a product and getting it shipped out to our user base. Everything from documenting the APIs to accessibility testing to focus groups on new features such as our GSOC projects or the media manager team to having communications with the guys running releases when I'm not doing it myself, to everything in the middle. If it's involved with making Joomla, the code come together, I probably get my hands in it.
We have microphones in the audience for you to use to ask questions that are challenging of this group. Because I get to pull rank up here and I have control of the other microphone, I'm going to ask the first question. We just went through a long, interesting, challenging in some ways, transition of structure from an old, very temporary process that was developed back in 2009 and expected to last only a year, that ended up lasting 7 years, from 3 teams, and we have gone to 1 team. We've gone from a core team of 32 to a core team of the people you see at this dais and a couple others. In that, a lot of questions were raised about where production was headed. And Michael, you kind of stepped from a 1/3 of a 3-organization team and into one of a group like this. Did production kind of lose its voice along this way, as everyone was worried about? No. Tell us about it.
Because everyone is basically aware that without the product, there's really not much left as far as the Joomla brand or the community goes, other than a bunch of people getting together, hanging out, doing whatever it is y'all do. So it may be a smaller voice as far as numbers go, but it's still probably one of the loudest voices, just because there's so many of us compared to the number of teams floating around everywhere else. Just look at that.
Very good. There's a question. Who's got it? You're holding the mic.
I'm just the mic guy. I'm just the
You're
mic guy.
armed. You're dangerous. Say
I know.
something.
I'm waiting for a question.
Easy question, hard to answer. What is Joomla?
Ooh.
Mike's out.
It's a 6-letter word to start with, but it encompasses many things. Obviously, it's production. I mean, that's the first thing people think of is the content management system. We are very unique in that Joomla also means community. We call ourselves Joomlers, not CMS XYZ. We are marketing, we are production. We are an organization that believes that a extendable, flexible platform for website creators is what we need today, and we are built around that, and we look to support that, both from the individual community level to the board level to what we create and how we try to express ourselves.
Who's next? Go ahead. Hustle on over there.
This is a bit controversial question, but I need to ask this. Okay, what is the main purpose of using Bootstrap 4 in Joomla 4?
Something Bootstrap 4, Joomla 4.
Jason, could you repeat the question?
Sorry?
We don't hear very well.
Actually, what is the main purpose of using Bootstrap 4 in Joomla 4?
Oh, that's a
The
Michael
main
question.
purpose of why Joomla Bootstrap.
George, get up here.
Okay, there's...
Keep talking.
Cool. The main reason we're using Bootstrap 4 and Joomla 4 is because we want to have consistent styling elements with a well-documented, well-supported code base with a large amount of community interaction so people can ask questions.
But we have seen that if you adopt a framework, this is getting worse when new version released. Okay, so when Bootstrap release something new, and Joomla has a reputation that Joomla is not adopting the new version when it comes with the, we have seen that in more tools and in Bootstrap. So when right now we are adopting Bootstrap 4, and what happens when Bootstrap 5 comes out or something like that? This is the question. Thank you.
But it's only the admin that's Bootstrap 4.
Well, all right, so Bootstrap 4, or Bootstrap in general, is probably the most obvious of the third-party dependencies. But the same problem exists with any of them. We have components client-side and server-side depending on Bootstrap, depending on jQuery, depending on Chosen, which is a jQuery plugin. Server-side, we use the PHP mailer library. We use a PHP encryption library for part of our encryption API. We use a Symfony component for parts of our API. So all of them run into the same issue of eventually they're going to release a new major version that's not backward compatible. And it's always going to come down to the same problem of, well, what's the cost of upgrading? How many issues is it going to create? Do we do something like we did with Chosen, where we essentially upgraded and then hacked around all of the compatibility breaks so we could take in all of the changes? It's not an easy thing to manage in the long run, because anytime you're dependent on external dependencies, you can't control everything. you can't say, well, okay, we're just not going to have any external dependencies and manage all the things ourselves, because that's suicidal. So it's trying to find a balance. In Joomla 3, there's a lot tighter of a coupling to Bootstrap for various elements. In Bootstrap 4, or Joomla 4, Bootstrap 4 is still getting a fair use in the admin template. In the front end, our core templates will use it, but it'll all be overridable. So from that perspective, it really doesn't matter that we're using Bootstrap 4 for our UI layer, because at the template layer, you can use Bootstrap 4, you can use Materialize, you can use UI Kit, you can use Semantic UI, you can use any framework.
Let's jump from the management of code, the project, and life in the production land to management of the project as a whole, and this management team and some of the challenges it faces. I'd like each of you to take a moment and reflect on, this is kind of a version 1 rollout, and it's time for mid-course corrections. As well as there are some challenges you face just in your new roles, and the fact that you are expected to work in a full-time job as a volunteer and also make a living somehow. So let's kind of go from one end of the row to the other. If you could change something about how we manage Joomla, what would it be?
The first thing that comes into my mind is actually efficiency of use of the time of all of our volunteers. Not only the volunteers that sit on the board, but all of the Joomla members. Because I often feel that we're not using all of the time efficiently, meaning that there are procedures, processes, or lack of those that cause a lot of unnecessary delays, and it also causes that a lot of time that could have been spent otherwise is being wasted on things like this. So that's my answer to that.
For me, it's communication between teams and the outside. Actually, it improved a lot in the new structure, but there's still room to improve. And if we can get teams working together, not duplicate efforts, I think what Alexander also suggested, we save a lot of time this way.
Completely agree with Yves and Alexander. We have several workflows and procedures and processes that are too hard to follow, and too time wasting. So we know that communication is also a big issue in this community. And please, communicate with us. Talk to us. We are open for your feedbacks, for your comments, concerns, opinions. And we started to have the volunteers engagement program, also to seek the feedback from our community members.
Is there anything else about our structure that you would want to change? An opportunity to do one thing different?
It's the same for me. It's about communication. Not only with all Joomlas, but also between us, to improve communication so that each of us can do the work in the best way possible.
Robert?
Finding our replacements.
Nice.
We need to have teams and volunteers and community members be ready to be that next generation that helps move the project forward. So certainly one of our problems, and one of the things we're looking at, is finding how to have that leadership training, understanding what the Joomla project does, not just in a very generic community sense, but also on a day-to-day sense. We all have very specific day-to-day tasks, and it's very important for us to make sure that there are people that can fill these positions on an immediate or long-term basis when those times come. We won't be here forever. Individually, sorry.
For me, I think task transparency and a bit more responsibility, overview of who's taken which task in the larger community, who has taken which task and who's responsible for it, and who's actually doing all the work. I think we have so much to do on a day-to-day basis. I feel like we need some kind of better tool to handle all the tasks that we have and to make sure they actually get done, and whoever said I'm going to do it actually finishes and does them. I think that would help the project a lot.
I'm going to come at this with a little different approach just because of all the things that I've been doing the last 5 years. Better balance. You get a lot of volunteers in a lot of different places, but a lot of times it ends up with you have a large pool of volunteers in some areas and you have just a small handful of people in other areas. Now granted, some of these are very specialized areas that you really can't have 15 people just jumping in on, but it does result in you have a small number of people that are probably overworked, overtaxed, sleepwalking, whatever other polite terms you want to put it with. And then you've got other people that are like, well, I want to do something, but I'm in a group that has 55 other people, so what is there for me to do? So trying to find a better balance in some key areas to more efficiently use resources.
Before Mike starts, let's get the microphones to the people who are next ready to ask questions. So get your hands up and get the attention of people. Mike?
The thing that I would change from my point of view is a shorter budgeting process.
For those that don't know, how long did it take?
36 hours in the same 4-day period. And that's not an exaggeration, unfortunately, because we had people working on both coasts helping figure out the documentation. But for the first time in recent project history, we had an on-time budget. So that was good for actually have it on time.
First time ever.
That's true.
First time ever.
First time ever.
In the history of the project.
As long as it just happens more than 2 days before the cutoff, that'd be great. But really, it's just finding ways that we can use our fiscal resources in the most effective way possible. So be that tax strategies or investments or helping, support all of these departments' goals and initiatives. There are ways that we can do to save the project a lot of money. For example, wire transfers. If you've done a reimbursement recently, you probably know that we now use Veeam for our wire transfer service. That is an estimated savings of thousands of dollars to this project, just that one change. And yes, I know it takes an extra 5 minutes to fill out, but it saves the project thousands and thousands of dollars. So those little changes can really add up to be another code sprint or supporting, a Joomla Day in Africa, or whatever the case may be that the board decides.
Great. Someone with a microphone?
No.
Yeah. So my question is, so one of the interesting things that's going to change in some ways the CMS marketplace for a bit now is the release of Gutenberg. WordPress is going away from kind of Joomla's end of the market and back into the Wix Squarespace market. What are we doing and planning on doing to take advantage of that?
Let's start. It's easy. It's not an easy question to completely answer, but we've already begun at the beginning of this year reaching out to hosting companies outside of the community. So we're actively working with partners and opportunities and communities where hosting is still a very critical part of their life and business. So attending events like HostingCon, working with CloudFest, working with cPanel, Plesk, these kinds of organizations where it becomes critical for them, because it's a part of their business, to have an infrastructure and a support system for web hosting and development and creation of sites that have a lot of flexibility, that Joomla is a partner with those things. So we don't tackle Wix and Weebly and Gutenberg head on, because that's a different industry and a space. But the space that exists in the rest of the world is huge for Joomla.
What are your expectations for Joomla 4? both positive and negative, if any?
About the only negative
Maybe
I
in
can...
terms of increasing your user base or dealing with some issues when it comes to upgrading?
About the only negative I can think of is the number of extensions in the JED might go down, but that's natural attrition when you have new major versions, I guess. Otherwise, Joomla 4 is basically just a natural evolution of what we've been doing over the last 6 years, just with a few more very explicitly planned breaking changes, because we've paid so much attention to backward compatibility over the last 5+ years that now we have to clean up some of that technical debt from our decisions the last 5 years. So it's I don't necessarily think it's going to be a game changer. It's going to be a modernization in that we're cleaning up some of the technical debt, we're embracing some newer technologies, moving forward with like server-side requirements or some of the new client-side things, like looking at progressive web app support or using web components for UI elements. So I'd expect it to be business as usual, personally.
And I know Michael's being not even as excited, but we start looking at the ways the API can be accessed and potentials for REST communication and things like that. That we have a framework now that can actually help us spread content created in Joomla in multiple ways as that product grows.
Okay, so Joomla is a beautiful baby and is Joomla is a beautiful baby and is growing up. My question is, now in Italy, at the age of 18, you are considered an adult. So what do you see in the next year for Joomla, in the next 6 years for Joomla, in the future of Joomla? To each department, what do you see for the future of Joomla?
I mean, sorry, I'm not a department, but like you said, at the age of 13, you become an adult, so I'm looking forward for us to all use our indoor voices.
Honestly, I'm just looking forward to seeing the completion of what's been a 2.5-year journey so far with getting Joomla 4 to a shippable state. And getting that to a mature state and using that as the platform we build on for the next 5-6 years, it's going to do us wonders.
I really think that's very far into the future in how fast this world moves. And I think it's unrealistic to expect any of us to really be able to predict that future, because things happen year to year that greatly change the marketplace we're in. I hope that Joomla will be able to adapt to the challenges that we foresee. I'm pretty sure we will. I feel very optimistic about the general future of Joomla, and I think it's important, and it answers a little bit the question that was asked earlier about what our position is, that we should be the tool for professional people building websites. And I think if we stick to that mantra, then I think the future is bright.
So 12 years ago, Joomla was a startup, and all startups go through a life, and I think we've entered sort of that, we're a going concern, an organization that's putting together a lot of pieces that help us be more professional and more aware and prepared for those future changes. To Soren's point about not being able to predict it, that is true, but we can also be prepared and proactive about dealing with those changes. And I think having the structure on the board and organization in place to do that, it has been critical. So I think we've reached that step where now we don't worry about reacting to things, we can be proactive about as much as possible.
And I think that with Joomla 4 and a brand new communication, we can, in the next years, increase our market share, gain new users, and get back other users. But in 4 or 5 years, I don't know.
So we can talk about the near future. Joomla 4 will be a big milestone in the story of Joomla. It's something really new. and it will be a challenge for all of us, obviously. I see that the new structure is something that was needed by the community, and I believe we can still grow a lot together, and we can have even a larger community in the next years.
As Søren said, it's hard to tell what Joomla as a software is going to be in 6 years. But I'm sure the community, Joomla as a community, which is a really awesome community is going to be together in 6 years and rocking the web.
Excellent. When the transition plan was rolled out, one of the things that struck me as unusual is that because I work with nonprofits, most nonprofits like to have like a 2-year board term so that they only have to have elections once a year. The project has so far been having elections every 6 months. I would think that that's, a 2-year term is like a lifetime in software years, but where are you guys at? Would you prefer to have fewer elections so that the teams can get more cohesive, or would you rather have that change so we got new blood coming through the organization? How do each of you individually feel about that? If we asked you to serve, would you? What would happen?
There are pro and cons with each of the options, because if you have long terms, you can do much more, you can get on board and do your work longer. But new blood always is needed by a community like ours. So I believe 1-year term still is a good option.
I fully agree.
Okay.
No burnout, just a bit sad.
Well, then let me ask the question to the audience. And I'm going to ask you to raise your hands for one of 3 choices. Would you prefer that we have elections every 6 months? Would you prefer that we have elections every year? Or would you rather just say, I don't care, let the people who have to manage the elections figure it out? So who likes elections every 6 months? Raise your hands. Who likes elections once a year? Raise your hands. Who likes let them figure it out, we don't care? Good to know. Thank you for that. Who has a microphone? Go up, stand up.
Yes, concerning to the technical depth that Michael told before, I think that our community is not a part of the technical depth. So in some way, in this transition, we have to make an extra effort to support our users, our sites, and our extension developers. And in this transition, we have to strive to don't lose any of our user or extension developers. And this is a challenge that is beyond a technical challenge. And I think in some way, we should have a process to manage this migration. I don't know what the leadership team thinks about this process and how to manage it. Thank you.
We've already had this conversation, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but we're not WordPress, and we can't hold on to all of the baggage for all of eternity. At some point, we do have to make logical breaks. And I know that pisses off some people, and I know that's going to cause us to lose people. But to me, the end state is going to result in a better Joomla than what we have now. So to me, the risk is worth it.
Any others from the audience? Up here.
So related to the same thing.
After this, there will be just one more question. Go ahead.
So do you have a succession planning plan already made? Because there's a couple of key areas that I know they need to be sort of refreshed once in a while. So let's say if like Michael drops or something like this, do you have a replacement? Do you have someone to continue with the project, especially in the key areas?
Absolutely. So, of course, all of the departments are made up of multiple teams, and within those departments, those team leaders are all aware of what's going on across that department. So there isn't a big distance between what maybe Michael's doing directly and a number of his teams, or in any other department in that case. So when we look at it from that perspective, there are people that are ready at some point to jump into place. When I talk about leadership before, it's just training more people to be ready, so that there are more opportunities and we can always get the best in those roles.
And I would just like to add something to that. If you would like to join the most exciting department in Joomla,
Marketing?
Marketing and capital.
the legal and finance, then I am still very much looking for volunteers. If you could be an account manager or something like that, you or any person who has business experience, please come and talk to me if you'd like to help volunteer.
If you're begging for work, I've got plenty for you.
I'm begging for volunteers, not work.
So that's what I'm trying to, like, I'm assuming like you have a plan in place to engage with Joomlers to sort of be your replacements in like kind of 5-10 years from now.
Correct, yeah, and the teams already have assistant team leaders and things like that, so that's already in place.
But I think it's important to note that there is nobody appointed because it's an election. So the way it works is that each department, each team leader votes for the department coordinator.
Last question in the back.
So I'll fess up. The first question, I'm over here, sorry. I know I'm kind of hiding in the dark. I should have stood under some light. My first question was loaded for 2 reasons. One, it was just to kind of prime the pump and get the conversation started. So thank you for a great panel, thing one. Thing two, I think there's a lot of conversation around, I love that question, what is Joomla? You have my favorite answer we just ran the whole thing and you ended on community. And of course it's more than that, but in a lot of ways, the work that production does is a manifestation of all of this. The fact that Soren is up there saying we really need help with legal is a manifestation. And as a team leader, I can tell you the best recruitment that happens is at events like this. So I guess my best question, and I don't know if it's for Duke or for the panel, is how we best, oh man, this is great, it's gonna tie into the theme and everything. How we bridge the gap between the perception that we have the folks that make Joomla happen and sort of the mass of end users. And we feel like there's overlap in those circles, but what can we do to bridge that gap more successfully and to make those circles overlap more consistently?
Take a first stab. I think Sandra put it very well earlier on, that we're all very directly accessible in the communication aspect. We're on a slight dais just so you can see us better, but we're all very equal. We have a very flat organizational structure, and the opportunity to talk with anyone directly is very, very easy, and there should be no inhibitions or fears or anxiety about that. And anyone who's in any kind of team or department coordinator position can help you very easily get to those right people. So email us, call us, Glip us, Skype us. Don't hesitate. I think that is the most critical thing. We seek to shrink the distance in that communication process as much as possible. So obviously in person, just grab someone on the shoulder, tap Soren and say, I really, really want to help you, and I have 5 other people that are going to help you because he would love that. And he's right here. He'll be having a coffee outside, and you'll see him with his wife and baby. So he's even easier to find.
Tweet. If the U.S. president can do it, so can you.
I don't know if I'd call that an accomplishment.
But really the realization that we're all very equal here and we're all very accessible, and the opportunity is right in front of you every single day.
But maybe the question was also more loaded. That's maybe people in this room already know this, but how do we get beyond this room?
So Sandra pointed it out earlier too, marketing beyond our circles. I think as a project, we do a pretty good job talking to the people contributing to the project.
Yep.
We have a very large circle of contributors, but we aren't necessarily going beyond that circle as well as we could. And that's kind of direction that she said she wanted to take that department. So we already do a good job talking to ourselves. Now we need to just kind of like turn around and talk to people that's trying to listen over our shoulders because we're ignoring them.
That's our plan, to go outside the community and to have a short-term and a long-term strategy. And it should start nearly with Joomla 4.
And I'm going
a new way
to
of
just add
communicate also.
the final rejoinder on this as we close off this panel, that I actually find the answer to that question to be out here in this room. That each of you have clients who are operating websites that are enjoying the benefit of the results of this community. This community is a party. This community, once you come to any of our events, a Joomla Day, a JUG event, a Joomla World Conference, a JAB conference, this is where the party is happening. You know, we always talk about people come here for the software and they stay for the community. We are the community. Each of you can talk to your friends and get them to just commit to a half an hour a month. And that's all it takes. And all of a sudden, they are a contributor just like you are. And if each of us did that with 3 people, we'd be a factor of 4 larger. Do that one more time, we're at 16. Do it again, we're at 64. You know how it works. So with that, I would like everyone here to express their appreciation for this panel, this group, our leadership that keeps us safe, keeps us running, keeps us in the black, and keeps us happy and producing websites for the world. Thank you.